My dear American friends, I am your Canadian neighbour to the north, and I write this letter to you as you near your elections for president. Yours is a country that for many great reasons was once the lure of the world, drawing as it did peoples from far and wide, escaping perhaps the scourge of poverty, cruel dictatorships and totalitarian regimes, decaying economies, overpopulation, hunger, and a host of other ills. America shone its bright light, and the world over clamored for the opportunity and freedom that your country offered. Today, I watch with disdain as everything that you claim ownership of is rapidly disappearing before my very eyes. Are you aware of what is happening to your country? Do you know that what you project to that same world you once influenced with your beacon of hope? In November 2008, you elected the first half-white to your presidency, amidst euphoria that the whole world had never before seen. I use this term to make a point, for while you see him as black, I see him as a mere human being, and though flawed as we all are, nevertheless deserving of the respect due his office, a respect constantly denied him by your media and its pundits. You elevated him to stratospheric heights and set unreasonable expectations of him even higher, as he inherited a country on his financial knees, headed like a fast locomotive towards the abyss of economic ruin. He set about his monumental task of stopping this dangerous trend with his brilliant, calm, and decisive nature. His choices were severely limited, and yet he pursued his work with a diligence and poise that is rare under such dire and unprecedented circumstances in any presidency. He extended a conciliatory hand, yet your representatives in opposition rejected it, blocking every move that they could get away with, all the while encouraging scorn and derision from their supporters. Given what he has been faced with, and the vitriol that is being hurled at him by many of you, his people, I can only but admire him even more than I previously did, as he maintains his poise and decency by not lowering himself to the level of the gutter. It is not Barack Obama who is holding your country back, but you yourselves. You elect people to govern, and to govern by working together towards the common goal of fairness and prosperity for all its citizens. And yet, you allow those in the most senior levels to oppose him personally with lies and innuendo rather than debate his brilliant ideas in an atmosphere of cooperation and not partisan bias. How can you allow these leaders to repeatedly state and espouse their sole objective to rid your country of him by making sure that he gets only one term in office instead of doing what they were elected to do on all your behalf? Can you stand idly by and watch this tragedy unfold as his opponents press on with their selfish aims, regardless of the interests of millions of Americans who need them all to work together before chaos unleashes a tidal wave of unbridled resentment that will engulf all, regardless of political ideology? They have refused the hand of compromise and gestures of goodwill by this good and decent man, who, in his imperfection, seeks only to make matters better for the wider population, especially those crushed by unrepentant corporate greed. How can it be that in the mightiest country in the world, people go hungry every night, suffer the indignity of no medical insurance, and watch as the world passes it by in education and other standards of living? Should unregulated greed be allowed to continue this reckless disregard for the less fortunate among you, while your so-called leaders in opposition promulgate their base desires that fuel the notion of the me first and to hell with the rest of you mentality? Some of you can try to hide under the various amendments to your constitution allowing you the so-called freedom of expression and right to bear arms that you hold so dear. And yet you abuse both of these in the most blatant manner with your unrestrained political rhetoric and frequent mass killings. Many of you remain silent and apathetic in the face of unprecedented corporate funding of these super PACs that seek to exploit widespread ignorance, allowing abuse of common sense and decency while seeking to entrench the will of a relative few over the needy majority. These levels of funding are nothing short of obscene. Wake up, America, and consider thoughtfully what the media and its vested interests are doing to your country. Look behind the curtain to understand the forces arrayed behind closed doors by those who seek to manipulate the minds of the gullible majority to achieve the ouster of this well-intentioned president. Your country vociferously and rightly challenges other countries to adopt the principles of democracy and the rule of law, and yet many of your powerful governors seek to legally restrict access to the polls by certain minorities partial to the president in some counties within your states. The tactics of mischievous lack of cooperation in your Congress are certainly working for the vested interests, but are unjustifiably and unfairly prolonging the agony of suffering among millions, while selfish interests disregard the consequences of their inaction simply for political gain. Many of you see Barack Obama as just a black upstart that has unexpectedly and successfully challenged the status quo of centuries and permit the myopia of your conscience to blur good sense. America, I ask you to apply the same standards of justice, decency and truth and fair play that you demand of other countries to your own imminent elections for president. From across the border here in Canada, I am astounded by the self-righteous rhetoric of those who seek office at any cost to your image. But note this, Almighty God is not mocked, and regardless of this murky malaise of turmoil and angst that permeates your society at the moment, and regardless of the outcome, His will shall prevail. God bless, and thank you for your time.